following is brought to you by ACT, Agora Center of Thought, here on the Voluntary Virtues Network, every Saturday night, 8 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Join us as we dispel the illumination of status sophistry with the dark web of Agora's philosophy. Agora, Anarchy, Action.
That is right, guys. This is the Agora Underground here on Voluntary Virtues Network. Do appreciate you guys tuning in. It is May 9th, 2015, and we are live broadcasting today. And have been held back a little bit here. Haven't done a show in a couple weeks, but hey, got to get back into it, don't we? Got to get back into that man economy state and power and market. And just breaking down Rothbard's famous breakdown, right? His magnus opus here of his take on economics. I mean, really the foundational book for the summary of Austrian economics to date. So definitely encourage you guys to check it out for yourself. Definitely encourage some of that lone reading time, some of the best times to reflect and grow the intellect and think are always by yourself. So it's when we become productive, isn't it? So here on Empowered Market, we're in Triangular Intervention, Section 3, essentially chapter 3 of Power and Market. And we've been going through different forms of triangular intervention, third-party intervention, or the state essentially picture a triangle, and you have 3 points on it, three corners, if you will, and the bottom 2 are people wanting to contract together, voluntarily, and you have the state, of course, as the third wheel, imposing its arbitrary controls and regulations upon the free and voluntary exchange of those other 2 individuals. So it is triangular in that sense, and we have been breaking down different points here, everything from immigration to a whole litany of things. Really great. Encourage y'all to check it out again for yourself. And we were over here on child labor laws after we finished immigration last 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. So definitely here. Let's continue on. We are on page 1111 of Man Economy State with Power and Market. This is Power and Market here. So this is the book itself. Here we go with Rothbard. So we're going to talk about child labor laws today and some other issues. So we'll see what we learn. Child labor laws are a clear-cut example of restrictions placed on the employment of some labor for the benefit of restrictive wage rates for the remaining workers. Interesting. In an era of much discussion about the unemployment problem, many of those who worry about unemployment also advocate child labor laws, which coercively prevent the employment of whole body of workers. So I mean, under 15, right? If you're under 15, you can't work. So child labor laws then amount to compulsory unemployment. Yeah, can't work. Forced not to, right? Compulsory unemployment, of course, reduces the general supply of labor and raises wage rates restrictively as the connexity of the labor market diffuses the effects throughout the market. So this is a good point here. I mean, just like the immigration issue, where you're restricting people from another country or another geographic location from coming to your general geographical location. By doing so, you're guaranteeing, wage increases to the workers that are in that area, right? That are restricting foreign workers because they no longer have to compete now, right? I mean, it makes sense, right? There's no, we've just brought down the supply of labor available. So the demand is going to maintain itself pretty high, and you can then negotiate higher wages and so forth. So he's applying that context, that way of basic supply and demand analysis here to kids being forced not to not to work. So we'll see. It's a valid point. I mean, it's a valid point, right? I mean, it restricts wages to the kids that may want to work, right? And it guarantees high wages to those adults that don't need to compete against the kids. So we'll see. We'll see what else we got here. So not only is the child prevented from laboring, but the income of families with children is arbitrarily lowered by the government, and childless families gain at the expense of families with children. Child labor laws penalize families with children because the period of time in which children remain net monetary liabilities to their parents is thereby prolonged. Right. So instead of the kid being able to, help out with a little, part-time job during the summer or during his break on the weekends or whatnot, I don't know, after school even. Yeah, I mean, kid can't gain any experience, can't work, can't make money, help make money for his family. At least pay for the going to the movies and whatnot, buying your toys, right, and buying your PS4 game or whatever. Yeah, I mean, 11-year-olds are barred from doing that, and you can't legally hire an 11-year-old to do anything. I mean, sure, this is why we have chores, right? We end up we still have child labor, it's just not paid for. So anyway, so that's kind of a little side tantrum because, I mean, obviously parents paying economically have being the foundation for their kids have every right to ask their kids to help out with basic chores around the house. That's pretty obvious. But we do see here how essentially families are hurt in this case, right? Because kids become a monetary liability for longer periods of time now. You're not allowed to work until you're 15 or whatnot, 18, whenever it is. I think it's 15 here in, let's just look it up, age to work in Texas. Because don't like talking out the ass, try to avoid that as much as you can. So, okay, so I may not work more than 8 hours a day. So, so you got to get a special permit, or 16-year-old even to do newspaper route. So, yeah. So here we see 14 effective. Child 14-year-old may work, but he's going to need some permission there. So interesting. So I thought it was 15. I guess it's 14 now. So the right to work, just increased by a year there. So yeah, I mean, of course, this hurts families at the expense of people without children. So child labor laws, by restricting the supply of labor, lower the production of the economy, and hence tend to reduce the standard of living of everyone in society. I mean, sure, that's arguable with the advances in technology and whatnot, but still, yeah, I mean, it's a just very true statement that a whole chunk of people that could be working, kids that could be working, are not working, right? Furthermore, the laws do not even have the beneficial effect that compulsory birth control might have in reducing population when it is above the optimum point. No, I was just making the point here that I mean, Rothbard's not in favor of compulsory birth control laws, right? He's just showing here that those would be more effective at reducing, I guess, kids into the workforce. So for the total population, it's not reduced except from the indirect effects of the penalty on children, but the working population is. So to reduce the working population while the consuming population remains undiminished is to lower the general standard of living. Right. I mean, we all know that having a kid is going to lower your standard of living, right? As a parent, I mean, obviously, you need to care and economically, viably take care of a child. I mean, another human being, right? That's growing and it's going to need clothes and medicine and food and a whole litany of things, right? And toys. Yeah, I mean, if the kid can't begin to pitch back in, if he's not allowed, he's barred from working, producing things until a certain age. Yeah, that prolongs that the standard of it lowers the standard of living for the parents. So obviously that's the case, but a lot of parents gladfully sacrifice for their kids. It's just it's the way it goes, right? Don't know what we don't understand what love is until we have children. At least that's what I hear from parents. So child labor laws may take the form of outright prohibition or of requiring working papers and all sorts of red tape before a youngster can be hired, thus partially achieving the same effect. The child labor laws are altered by compulsory school attendance laws. Compelling a child to remain in a state or state-certified school until a certain age has the same effect of prohibiting his employment and preserving adult workers from younger competition. Interesting. Now here you can hear the heart beating, bleeding so-called leftists and so-called liberals, right? Statist socialists, the nanny, the guys that want to save the world, right? The do-gooders out there. Oh yeah, but isn't school good for children, and shouldn't children be learning and expanding their mind and knowledge on things and whatnot? They shouldn't be working. They shouldn't be worrying about market forces and working, and that's slavery. Right. Well, first of all, I mean, really, is our education really even education? I mean, really, I mean, is anyone analyzing that? I mean, it sounds great, right? Kids are going to school. Oh, yes. Feel good about it. You give yourself a pat in the back, like recycling or something, right? Yeah. Bolster your ego. Feel good. Feel like you're doing something, right, for the kids. And lo and behold, you find out that, school isn't really teaching them anything. Kind of, if anything, indoctrinating them to be a bunch of non-thinking imbeciles. So what do you do? What do you do at that point? And, shouldn't kids be learning? Come on now. I mean, please, come on, give me a break. We all know that back in the day, when you had these blacksmiths and you had the different, the different trades, essentially, the different guilds. Hey, the butcher, the bread maker, right? The beer maker, the winer, the wood shop worker, and a whole litany of things, right? The architect, the mason. So hey, these are trades, right? These are trades that are well-paying trades, right? Back then, kids would become apprentices rather, pretty young, at a pretty young age, and learn a trade that they were interested in or that was suitable for their parents to get, to have them learn, right? I mean, if your dad's a mason and your uncle's a mason, it'd probably be a lot easier for you to learn masonry, right? Didn't have to learn how to make beer or something like that, start from scratch. But point being is that kids back in the day, see, learning and knowledge. I mean, this thing of education it's a lifelong endeavor, isn't it? Is it not? And we don't, this idea of going to academia to learn, and then, I got a paper that's certified, a certified state issued paper that tells me I know this and that. I mean, come on, it's just a big ceremony of nonsense, of applauding your slavery in a lot of ways, because First of all, you're putting yourself in huge amount of debt. You're not being taught anything. I mean, whether university level or just basic education, elementary and middle school and high school and whatnot. I mean, so really, come on. I mean, education is a lifelong pursuit. We learn to talk, we learn to write, we learn to read, we learn mathematics, we learn these things, and then at that point, we should be able to decide as kids what we want to learn, what we want to be. I mean, so many kids got so much potential and so much energy to be put towards something productive, and all that gets, a lot of it gets stifled and misdirected, having to jump through all these hoops of certification for things that don't even matter to you, to what you're trying to get into, right? I mean, if you want to, I don't know, you want to make computer software programs, you don't really have to learn, read up on classic Greek literature and whatnot, I mean, and write reports about it. I mean, it seems almost like a barrier to even getting somewhere in life. You have to jump through all these hoops before you can actually start to get your hands dirty and get your hands on life. I mean, come on, really? That seems like a filter for something there. So yeah, I mean, this may be a shock, right? Shock and awe to any state is listening that we would call for such thing the end of child labor laws, but we just honestly believe that parents and kids and society people individually can choose what's best for themselves and for their kids, and not have to go to all these compulsory institutions that the state provides so graciously to us. So we got compulsory attendance here. However, goes even further in compelling a child to absorb a certain service, schooling, when he or his parents would prefer otherwise, thus imposing a further loss of utility upon these children. Yeah, that's a very important observation there. I mean, the children it's a potential utility, right? You got kinetic force and potential force, and you got a lot of potential force in children. So seems like somebody's going to want to capitalize on that. Seems like somebody's going to want to take advantage of that, right? I mean, this is so either the parents do, either your parish does, right, your local religious institution, or the state, right? And all of them for different reasons. And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, it's pretty obvious that a self-proclaimed reverend or certified priest or a state funded bureaucrat has no intention to give the best for have the best outcome for your child. Most likely they're going to want to use that potential energy for their own benefit, right? So yeah, state definitely wanting to get their hands on your kids, have them sign up into the military. That's why they got the recruiters there at the high schools. I mean, this is the whole point of it, right? Teach them a strict structure of bells and times for class scheduling and all this. And yeah, I mean, come on, really? That's what's best for the kids? State funded indoctrination. So here he's got a reference here, 36 and 37. He says that for a brilliant discussion of the anti-child labor factory acts in early 19th century Britain, see Hutt, the factory system, on the merits of child labor. See also D.C. Coleman, labor in the English, in the English economy of 17th century, the Economic History Review, April 1956, page 286. Interesting books, which should be a good read. And then, of course, here, 37, the other reference, a new item illustrates the connection between child labor laws and restriction wage rates for adults, particularly for unions. Ooh, what a surprise. Through the cooperation of some 26,000 grocers plus trade unions, thousands of teenage boys will get a chance to earn summer spending money. Deputy Police Commission James B. Nolan, president of the Police Athletic League, disclosed yesterday. The program was worked out by PAL with the assistance of Grocer Graphics, a trade newspaper. Raymond Bill, publisher of the trade paper, explained that thousands of groceries can employ one and in some cases 2 or 3 boys in odd jobs which do not interfere with union jobs. There it is right there. Kind of admitted it out of their own, out of the horse's mouth, eh? Out of the status unicorn's mouth. Interesting. So yeah, you can, kids, you can work for the grocery and the newspaper and whatnot, but just don't step on them union jobs. Yeah, could have seen that one coming, right? Interesting. So, trying to think if I have anything else to say that coming to mind here on this, but other than just the obviousness of what I went out on is kids should have the right to be able to become an apprentice ASAP. In fact, you're talking about learning institutions. Talking about education. Yeah, you get a lot more education dealing in the real world, dealing with things that are viable, things that are physically there, things that are demanded within the market, not this, sexology, majors and race relations majors. I mean, yeah, there's no demand for that. That's just state. Those are just, cozy activists, full-time activists. Cozy living, at the state expense, saving the world, $1 at a time. So we got conscription here coming up next, a forced military service, another form of triangular intervention upon the economy. Obviously, right? Conscription, yeah, another major one. Let's just get rid of all these boys here, send them off to war. So let's see what Rothbard has to say about it. It has rarely been realized that conscription is an effective means of granting a monopolistic privilege and imposing restrictionist wage rates. Rarely been realized. Yeah, I don't think anybody who would see who would want to see conscription through economic eyes. That's so conscription, like child labor laws, removes a part of the labor force from competition in the labor market. In this case, the removal of healthy adult members. Very true. Coerced removal and compulsory labor in the armed forces at only nominal pay increases the wage rates of those remaining, especially in those fields most directly competitive with the jobs of the drafted men. So yeah, those the jobs that those guys would have been doing, anybody left doing it is going to have a secured wage there at a pretty high rate. At least more so than if the boys, these young men, were allowed to stay, right? So of course, the general productivity of the economy also decreases, well, obviously, offsetting the increases for at least some of the workers. But as in other cases of monopoly grants, some of the privilege will probably gain from the governmental action. Interesting. Directly, conscription is a method by which the government can commandeer labor at far less than market wage rates, the rate it would have to pay to induce the enlistment of a volunteer army. Yeah, definitely a gain for the government there, right? Pretty much free soldiers, or at least pay them a lot less than you have to if it was a volunteer army. It'd be interesting to check that out. See the average pay of military during the draft being enacted versus now, for example, right? And calculating for inflation and all that. That'd be interesting. Interesting analysis. Here you got another reference here, 38. James C. Miller, Why the Draft. So yeah, very good analysis on that. Oh, and that's the end of that section. Interesting. That's really quick. Well, yeah, I mean, this one is he obviously didn't get into the conscious, objector stance, or the why people shouldn't be forced to do anything against their will. This is a given, right? All these things, forcing someone to go against their conscience or against their faith or against their their better judgment, their reason, and force them into war is an abhorrent action, right? I mean, it's disgusting and it's despicable. And I'm glad that a lot of people resisted it, back when in Vietnam and all that. In fact, Muhammad Ali, just the other day, was his when was it? He got indicted for that. So I think 2 days ago or something like that was marked, I don't know, the 40th anniversary of that or something. But yeah, because he refused to go to the military. He refused to go to war when his name came up in the draft. So, and even did some jail time. So because of it. So another way of getting rid of workers, right? The jail cell. So it makes sense. So let's just go ahead and go to this next section already. See what it has in store. We got minimum wage laws and compulsory unionism. But bam. Should be fun. Actually, not really. When something is compulsory, it's usually not really too much fun. Anyhow, compulsory unemployment is achieved indirectly through minimum wage laws. Yay. On the free market, everyone's wage tends to be set at his discounted marginal value productivity. All right. I mean, let's reanalyze that one for you non-economic minded folk. Everyone's wages tends to be set at his or her, right, at their discounted marginal value productivity. So, how much are you producing? What's the value of what you're actually producing? Tends to be slightly discounted than that, right? I mean, they're not going to pay you exactly what you're producing. Then it wouldn't benefit the employer to hire you, right? If you're producing $10 an hour worth of material, does it really benefit them to hire you at $10 an hour? You're kind of just staying stagnant there. There's no profit, right? And of course, some people, you got your ANCOMs and your commies and your labor, it's labor theory of value crowd, essentially, taking that as all out theft from the worker, right? I mean, you make any profit, you pay them a discounted marginal of their value of what they produce. Well, you're exploiting them, at least according to them, and I just don't see it. I don't see it because we all know that goods are valued differently. So, anyhow, though, is interesting that he would say that. I could see a lot of people jumping on that and hating it and using it against them. Quote Rothbard as being an evil, maniacal bastard. Right here, this quote. Put a picture next to it. So, just kidding about that, obviously, but yeah, for those communists out there, or I guess he could be a Smithsonian Adam Smith, right, adherent. So, a minimum wage law means that those whose DMVP is below the legal minimum are prevented from working. Their discounted marginal value productivity are prevented from working. So, if this is a very good observation here. I mean, this is a great way of putting it. So if your productivity, for whatever reason, you got a handicap, for example, right? You're handicapped, or you're a kid, or you're barely learning, right? You're an apprentice. Your value of what you produce is very low. Let's be honest here. I mean, you're disabled, right? Mentally or physically in some way. It's going to lower your productivity for whatever it is you're doing, unless, of course, your disability has no bearing on that. But for the most part, right? I mean, it's so anybody with disability, anybody with no experience, anybody who with no experience, that's a good one. Just wanting to learn the job, wanting to learn the trade, they're going to be barred from working. They're going to be prevented from working if you set a minimum wage, right? Because their value of productivity is not worth the wage that the government's forcing the employer to pay. So they're just not going to get employed. Simple as that. So great way of putting it. Nice little breakdown there. The worker was willing to take the job and the employer was willing to hire him, but the decree of the state prevents his hiring from taking place. Compulsory unemployment thus removes the competition of marginal workers and raises the wage rates of the other workers remaining. Very true. We all know, again, unions had a big role in minimum wage laws, wanting to keep blacks and Hispanics from competing for lower wages. So they just passed minimum wage laws. They passed a union, you had to be part of the union, you forced union membership. So I'm going to definitely break that down some more here, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, come on now. The only thing minimum wage laws protects are those that get to keep their job, and they get a higher wage now. So if you're lucky, right? If you're lucky enough to keep your job. So thus, while the announced aim of minimum wage law is to improve the income of marginal workers, right? That's the reason they're doing it, right? We're trying to help the workers. They're so poor. We need to help them out, give them higher wages. The actual effect is precisely the reverse, unfortunately. It is to render them unemployable at legal wage rates. So there it is. The higher the minimum wage rate relative to the free market rates, the greater the resulting unemployment. Of course, right? Just give the classic example of, well, hey, if minimum wage is so great, I'm going to save everybody. Let's just make it $1 million for everybody. We can all be rich and we can all have everything we want. Well, guess what? No one's going to have a job at that rate, right? Exactly. So, yeah. So, yeah, let's save by destroying. That's just the way that the state does it, doesn't it? The state does, don't it? It's broken window fallacy. So unions aim for restriction wage rates, which on a partial scale cause distortions in production, lower wage rates for non-members, and pockets of unemployment. And on a, I don't understand here this statement, and pockets of unemployment. But so unions aim for restrictionist wage rates, which on partial scale cause distortions in production. Okay, so they cause distortions in production, of course, because now you have less workers, right? Or you have to pay them more, which means production now costs more. You lower wage rates for non-members. Okay, so they want to lower the wage rates for non-unionized members. Pockets of unemployment. Okay, I don't understand. And on a general scale, led to greater distortions and permanent mass unemployment. Wow. So by enforcing restrictive production rules rather than allowing individual workers voluntarily to accept work rules laid down by the enterprise in the use of their property, unions reduce general productivity and hence the living standards of the economy. Here we go, right? They're trying to force their standards, their health standards, their I guess their their, what would you call it here, productivity standards, right? You can and unions set that kind of stuff. They'll say, whatever, worker at a car factory, can't make any more than whatever. I don't know how long it takes to make a car. Can't make more than 2 cars an hour, right? He's fabricating it or something, or I don't know, something of the sort. But they'll set wages. They'll say it's for the health and for the well-being of the worker, because anything more productive than that would be, they see it again as a form of exploitation, as a form of taking advantage of the worker. So unions actually set productivity levels. I know that I sell tools for a living here, in industrial tools in San Antonio here, and family business and whatnot. And I've talked to some of the people that we sell tools to, and a lot of it down in Mexico, manufacturers down in Mexico that went down there because of NAFTA and all this, automotive industry and mining industry, and there's a lot of minerals down there too, the oil industry. But I remember talking to this guy that was part of the oil industry, very active in the oil industry, in the market of the oil industry, and basically, he was telling me over the phone, explaining to me, why Pemex, right, the nationalized oil conglomerate that used to be nationalized, the oil in Mexico, and now I think the recent president opened it up to the market. But Pemex, which was it's like essentially the government issued oil, right? So I mean, there's only one gas station, right? And it's all Pemex. So and it's run by the government. But anyway, he was telling me how because of the union's horrible production standards, the standards that they enforce, through government, um, you know, essentially, right? I mean, if the company breaks these standards, they're going to get government involved. The union will get government involved, but essentially, the union is, through the body of the union is enforcing these production standards on Pemex, and it turns out that Pemex had Mexico has one of the, or at least had, I don't know now, but had one of the slowest production times, right? Rates, production counts of actual man hours versus barrels of crude that are coming out. It was one of the least productive in the whole world, in fact. And he was telling me that this was strictly because of the union, and it makes sense, right? I mean, it's a government sector of the economy, the oil being produced by government. Of course, all those workers are going to be unionized. But they were the reason that gas was so expensive in Mexico, obviously, because it's taken so long for them to produce, and can't work too hard now, can't break a sweat. So yet another example of how this, negatively affected whole economies, right? Whole economic sectors and geographic locations. I mean, just consider oil for a whole country. I mean, you're the sole producer of oil for a whole country, and you're producing at rates that are antiquated. Well, then everyone else is going to do better than you. I mean, can't compete. People are going to be losing at that expense. They could have gotten cheaper oil. Simple as that. So any governmental encouragement of unions, therefore, such as is imposed under the Wagner-Taft-Hartley Act, leads to a regime of restrictive wage rates, injury to production, and general unemployment. The indirect effect of unemployment is similar to that of minimum wage laws, except that fewer workers are affected, and it is then the union enforced minimum wage that is being imposed. Right. Well, I mean, obviously, minimum wage laws affects the whole economy, right? Whereas unions, there's only specific unions for specific labor markets. So, but same effect. Same effect. You're trying to enforce higher wage by force, collectively, right? Collective bargaining. And let's see here. Did we read this reference? I believe so. Wait, no, we didn't. 39. So let's see. On minimum wage laws, see Yale Brosen and Milton Friedman, The Minimum Wage, Who Pays? The Free Society of Association, 1966. Yeah, I think that's where Milton Friedman and his wife basically, catalog how minimum wage laws are, in Milton Friedman's own words, I mean, they're the most anti-Negro laws on the books. They specifically target minorities here and the poor, right? We already read about this, right? The least educated, the ones with the least amount of experience, the ones right, that are willing to work for less, right? Because they need that initial job. They need their foot in the door. Well, can't get hired anymore. So talk about racism, right? But God forbid you mention that. I mean, God forbid you even hint towards minimum wage laws being racist, right? Because the whole collective, story here, the little riddle and story that's being pulled over everyone's eyes is that it's the other way around, right? If you're against minimum wage laws, then you're a racist. You're the one that's a racist because, hey, they'll argue it's the poor that need it the most of the minimum wage increase, right? Minorities need it the most. They're the ones on the minimum wage, so we're going to be helping them out. Yeah, but you're going to be helping them out by having them lose their job, get fired, get laid off. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure that's going to help them out. But hey, for government, right? It's just that going with the pat in your back, feel good approach. Oh, we did something. Yay. Now everyone back to regular life. And who cares about, the problem that we were supposedly trying to fix, because it's going to fix itself now. Yay. Supposedly, somehow, magically. Flying unicorns. So what a joke. Really. I mean, it's laughable. It's laughable. But I'm not laughing, right? So yeah, I mean, definitely check this out. Minimum wage laws. Minimum wage, who pays? Milton Friedman, The Minimum Wage, Who Pays? Sounds like a good read. Definitely sounds like a good read. So do we have time for one more? We got about 20 minutes here. So yeah, we definitely got time for more. We got time probably for two more. It's a lot of reading. We can leave that J there for next week. So what's the next one here? We got subsidies to those that are unemployed. That's pretty obvious, right? Well, I mean, any form of subsidy is triangular intervention that's bad. But what does it do to the economy? Why is it unfit for a free market, right? Other than the moral implications of it. So more the practical, right? See what happens here with this. So government unemployment benefits are an important means of subsidizing unemployment caused by unions or minimum wage laws. Ooh, interesting. When restrictive wage rates lead to unemployment, the government steps in to prevent the unemployed workers from injuring union solidarity and union enforced wage rates. Interesting. By receiving unemployment benefits, the mass of potential competitors with unions are removed from the labor market, thus permitting an indefinite extension of union policies. And this removal of workers from the labor market is financed by the taxpayers, that is the general public, the public purse. Yay. To save the day. So this is great. This is they got their solution, right, to their intervention. Hey, look, we caused a problem of mass unemployment because we raised wages and we forced you to join the union, and people were being laid off left and right. And hey, but don't worry about it. Just stand in line here at your unemployment office, and we'll give you a stipend, government check, or should we say public, Joe Public debt check written out for you. Love you. It's disgusting. This vicious circle of economic interventionism. I mean, but I mean it's pretty telling. I mean it's right. I mean it makes perfect sense that they would not want to break up union solidarity or that threaten union enforced wage rates. You also can't have these unemployed individuals starting jobs. You can't have that, right? You can't have them engaging in the black and the gray market. You can't have that either. You can't tax that. So hey, let's just get them dependent on the government, right? They'll most likely vote for us and keep voting for us on the elections, and it'll be great. Now let me pretty much note that it's important, guys, to realize that in no way are anarcho-capitalists, in no way are agorists, or free marketeers, or laissez-faire libertarians. In no way are we essentially against any form, just because we're against the taxpayers. I mean, Bostak couldn't say it better, right? I mean, people that we talk to, people, statists, think that we're against public schools because we don't want them publicly financed, or that we're against roads because we don't want them publicly financed, or we're against, right, helping people because we don't want it publicly financed, right? I mean, they just assume that we don't want these things, that we must not want corn because we don't want it subsidized by the government. We must hate corn or something. They don't realize that we all these things, right? There's no problem with them. We have no problem with them. We in fact, we encourage them. We love, I love corn. I love the fact that kids can get educated at schools, and right, education in general. So we love these things, right? These services and these products. We just don't want them to be paid for by the government. I mean, is that so hard to understand here? So when it comes to some kind of unemployment, safety net for workers, there are voluntary solutions to that, ladies and gentlemen. Mutual aid societies that can, essentially take care of that. You pitch in, you pay a certain fee a month, and they guarantee that if you're ever laid off, they'll pay you for X amount of months until you find another job or something. I mean, there's many ways of approaching this. A lot of people gladly, religious folk, even atheists that are trying to prove religious folk wrong, or everybody's lining up to help people. And in a society where people get to actually keep their, the product of their labor, and get to keep what they produce, they're more likely going to give freely instead of what we have now, right? I mean, where people are less likely to give because, hey, we have a government program for that. Why am I going to give you food? We got food stamps. Why am I going to give you food? Why am I going to give you money? We got you can get a government check if you just say you're poor, right? So we're not against any kind of safety net, right? Don't portray us as cold-hearted, animals, that brutes that don't care about children because we want them working at the factory, or don't care about security because we don't want a forced military, right? Or don't care about people that are laid off and without a job because somehow we don't want taxpayer paid for unemployment checks, right? So don't do that, and engage us here on the realm of ideas and in the body of political philosophy, and have something to offer other than ad hominem attacks, right? But yeah, I mean, trying to offer it here, for you guys. That's what all these authors are doing. This is what the whole libertarian movement is doing. I literally see it as a big extension, a big hand, trying to reach out to the masses of the society who have lost their way in the illusions and delusions of statism. Right? We are offering reason and just deductive logic here, right? Ethical standards, moral standards that are universal, not theocratic, right? Not based on your view of God, but rather a universal, rationally based ethical standard. And that's what we need to offer, ladies and gentlemen. We can't get all superstitious here and think that voting is going to save the day, right? The government's going to save the day, because it's not. It's not. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner we start producing things to form a better world, the sooner we can get out of all this mess. So I encourage you, you produce against the government's edicts. I encourage you to work at whatever rate you want, preferably one way beyond minimum wage. And that takes a lot of education. So I hope you take the time to educate yourself on your things that you are passionate about. You can be an amazing. You're an amazing potentiality, right? Force to be unleashed in the world. You can change a lot of the world. You can't change the whole world, but you can change a lot of it. A lot of it, if you put your mind and your heart and your guts to it. So release that potential energy, go, get some kinetics going, and get running, get running towards freedom, ladies and gentlemen. hope you do. I hope you do. And I encourage you to, and just get off the web, open up a book and reflect and take the time to meditate and just think things through, and always produce in defiance, always make a living in defiance of the state by actually producing something, bringing something to humanity. So, as always, guys, it was a pleasure talking to you guys. Really, it really is. It was. I'm trying to open up here. This where we at? Yeah, but it was a pleasure, guys. Always is a pleasure talking to you guys. And let's stop the screen share. And yeah, I'm sorry for the stuttering, the mumbling, but I hope we got some information across to y'all. And as always, I appreciate you guys sticking through thick and thin, right? That's why we're here. We're all in this together. So reach out, guys. Reach out to those around you. Reach out to your family and get her done, Let's get it done. Let's get it down. I'll leave you with the outro girl. Cutting a little minute short. So you guys, again, have a great week. Laissez-faire.
You have been listening to the Agora Underground. Tune in next week for more. Laissez-faire, comrades.